Coming up on this episode of the 500 and Growing podcast.
My father and my uncles, sitting around the TV watching the Julio Cesar Chavez versus,
that was it right there, man.
Yeah, versus Wilfredo Gomez fight.
Ooh, that first one, you remember that one?
Oh yeah, man, I remember that. I remember being in the house and we were, barbecuing outside, and then we were watching the fight on the inside on paper, and it was on closed circuit. I was searching for purpose. I was searching for meaning, especially after my divorce was over, and having to adjust to being a single dad, and trying to keep myself together emotionally and physically for the sake of my son, for the sake of myself, and trying to be in a better place. And that was a very pivotal moment in my time. And it, growing up, like I said, I saw my father, in the boxing game, and I knew all of the things that he did. But I didn't want to get involved in boxing officiating, because I always thought that was my father's thing.
Yeah, I'm not trying to copy him, man. I'm on my own thing.
I'm trying to be my own man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to find something that was unique, and specific to me, and not follow necessarily in his footsteps. What I try to do is, I think in my position, and this is something I learned from veteran referees who have done it, on the highest level, is that the most important thing that a referee can have is not, his ability to move in the ring. It's not even necessarily great judgment as far as, when to stop a fight. It's compassion. Compassion is the most important thing that you can have, because without compassion, you won't stop that fight sooner than it should. If you're not compassionate, you don't realize that the person that is taking that punishment is somebody's son, somebody's husband, somebody's wife, somebody's father. And the guy that's on the ropes throws a punch and it hits me dead square in the face, man.
What's up, everybody? A free and really impactful way to support the 500 and Growing podcast is to follow on Spotify or Apple Podcast or your preferred podcast platform. Another totally free way is to subscribe on YouTube at the 500 and Growing channel. You get to see the episodes a week after the audio podcast has been released. Remember to like and review. Send this episode to somebody that you love that can grow by the powerful experiences you learn about. It helps us delivering a high quality, engaging stories of guests who are typically people who live outside of the 9-to-5 and choose to cultivate their passions while reaching for their highest potential. So if you're enjoying the journey of the stories we feature on the 500 and Growing podcast, hit that follow button, subscribe on YouTube, and help us grow. We appreciate every single one of you, and thank you. Enjoy your episode.
500 and growing.
Podcast.
Dedicated to the underdog, cause I see you. Working on your craft, getting strong, cause I see you. Ready to set it off and on, cause I see you. Correcting all that is wrong, cause I see you. Hey. My name is Jesus Azteca 500 Sanchez, and I am the host of the 500 and Growing podcast. Today we have Benjamin Rodriguez. Now, Benjamin Rodriguez is a Puerto Rican native son of Chicago, Illinois. He's proudly was raised in Logan Square, has a child, a son, and is a proud father of his son. He works by day. He's a health insurance, retirement benefit representative, and he works with the Teamsters union. And then by night, when he changes into Batman and Superman and the Flash, he is an official for boxing, right? Through USA Boxing, and he also does professional bouts. You might recognize his face with Clarissa Shields' last fight championship fight. And so he comes from a lineage of like officials. His father was an official. You know, we're going to be talking about boxing. We're going to be talking about, you know, how he grew up. And man, I'm super interested in like figuring out like, you know, what it was like while his father was officialing. But yeah, so, you know, sports has been very important in Ben's life. He's also a good friend to the first person that we interviewed on the podcast, named Tyson. And Tyson is a DJ. And, you know, off camera, we were talking about how they grew up and how, man, he knew Tyson when he was 10 years old, right? So Tyson Sanchez is the first guest. I was doing physical therapy and I was just like, Tyson, I'm thinking about doing this podcast. Would you be interested in being a guest? And Tyson was like, bet. I was like, for real? And so, yeah, it's interesting how some of our guests kind of like intertwine in life. And so, you know, I'm really interested in getting to know Ben and his life. So everybody, let's give a big round of applause to Ben. There we go. All right. So, Ben, how you doing, brother?
Hey, Zeus, I'm doing great, man. First of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me to your podcast. It's an honor, man. Just like you said, I'm a good, close childhood friend of your first podcast guest, Tyson New Life Sanchez. Yeah. So to follow up and do your podcast as well, I'm honored that you're having me here today, man. So
yeah, man, and it's only suiting because he was the first podcast, and this is the closing of our third season. So for those people that don't know, we do 10 episodes a season, and we take the last couple of months off. So we'll be back in January. But man, you know, it's only fitting that you would be the closing of the third season. So thank you for making it. And that's why we give you a round of applause, because it takes a lot to drive over here and be part of the podcast. So thank you. One thing that I forgot to say is that Ben has been officiating over 200 bouts and has done regional championships and has done a whole lot in the boxing community, right? You know, I'm also an official, and you know, I love boxing. I'm a boxer myself, and so you know, Ben's ref some of my fights where I'm just like, damn, Ben, or like I think you ref the one that I won, right?
I think so. Yeah, Golden Gloves.
Yeah, I won the championship in 2023, and Ben was the ref before I had become an official. And so, man, thank you for all the work that you do, man. And now seeing it on the back end, like I know what it's like to get there early and, you know, see the fight list and stuff like that. Stuff that as a fighter you don't really know, or like people think that you won the fight and then you're just like, you see what's going on and you see it differently as you see it as an official. So I get to see the nuances of that. So yeah, man, thank you for all the work that you do, because it takes a lot to go to all these amateur fights, especially, you know. So real quick, let's start off with, you know, what was it like when you were growing up in Logan Square? What did it smell like? Did it smell like mofongo and, like, you know what I'm saying, tostones? Like, what was that? What was the environment like? And what years did you grow up in Logan Square?
Yeah, so the smell of mofongo and tostones probably was closer to Humboldt Park, but we did have a little bit of that come our way as well. We were not too far. But man, yeah, I grew up in Logan Square, in pretty much during the years of like the beginning of the 80s all the way through the mid 90s, when I eventually moved out or my parents moved away, I should say. And I actually moved back to Logan Square, where I stayed with roommates for a few years there, and then moved on after that. But that community, that neighborhood is near and dear to my heart. A lot of great memories growing up in that neighborhood. A lot of challenging times, and a lot of things that you saw growing up in that neighborhood, because it was still very much the hood. At least at that time, growing up in a time in Chicago where it was very heavily gang infested, much more so than it is now. And I know you can relate to that. You grew up in that same situation, same environment.
Yeah.
But Logan Square was a great neighborhood, man. It was a mixed neighborhood. It was mostly Latino, but there was quite a few number of black families and some white families as well. So there was a good mix of people. The boys I grew up with, were a nice mix of Latino, black, white. And we just all grew up with the same struggle,
Yeah. And what was it like to grow up? I compare it to my experience on the South Side. Like, when you're on the South Side, you say, yeah, all my friends were Mexican, right? Or all my friends were black, because we're locked into these like neighborhoods and people hardly ever get out. What was it like to grow up with like these different ethnicities in your space? Like, what did that provide you?
I think it helped me. It provided an appreciation for other ethnicities, other cultures. Obviously, like I said, it was more predominantly Latino. But like I said, we had friends that were black. I had some friends that were white, and seeing how these different ethnicities and different families growing up in the same community, with the same financial struggles or the same goals, to do the best they can for their families, that you share that common thread. And at the end of the day, we're all human beings, man. Yeah. Regardless of where we're from, yeah. And what similarities we may have, we also appreciate the differences that we have, and we learn we grow from that, and we learn from that.
And what was your family structure like? Like, did you have brothers and sisters? Like, how did you grow up in Logan Square?
Yeah, so I am the oldest of 5 siblings.
Ooh, you're the babysitter.
Yeah, and I'm actually the only male.
Ooh, so you were beating everybody up.
So I'm the only boy with 5 sisters.
Wow, how was that, bro?
It was interesting. It was interesting. Really, I didn't have to do much because my father was was there. He was, my father was a tough dude. So nobody was gonna mess with our family, and not with him around. So he took care of us, really well. Yeah.
And then what was it like to be around a whole bunch of, incredibly powerful women, like, and being like the oldest, and what was that dynamic like?
It's at the time, obviously they were younger than me. So, I guess they learned from all the mistakes I made.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, because, I'm so thankful and so grateful and so happy to see that they all made such a success of their own lives and in their own respective professions. And I can proudly say today that all of my sisters are doing exceptionally well. And they are all they're all successful in their own lives, with their families, and we are still very close. We're a very close family. We vacation together with our children. We spend quite a bit of time together. I try to see them as often as I can. They don't. 2 of them live here in Chicago. 3 of them are spread out all over. A couple in Los Angeles, 1 in Costa Rica at the time. Right now.
Wow.
But we all stay very close. We all communicate quite often, and we try to get together as often as we can and see each other and spend quality time with each other.
That's what's up. What was your relationship like with your dad? I always wonder, because my dad left at a young age, and he went back to Mexico and lived with my grandparents. And so it was just like, I really didn't have a dad. I had an uncle, or I have an uncle that still is one of those people that helped raise me. Like a couple of stories that I've told where I had like crazy, what do you call it? Like I had some books from the library that I had lost and had crazy fines. And he was just like, I'll pay your fines, but you got to volunteer for a year at the library. So I had good influences, but he was still my uncle. He wasn't my dad. But what was your relationship like with your dad?
Yeah, my relationship with my dad was good.
And especially being because everybody else is a sister, right? So you're like you're the boy.
Right.
Yeah, like what was that like?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, he was able to, put most of his male focus on me.
Mm-hmm.
And, he taught me a lot of things, obviously. He by example, both good and not so good, right?
I mean, but that's everybody. Nobody has an instruction manual, right?
Exactly. Nobody's perfect. And, I'm thankful for what he taught me. I'm thankful that he showed me as a man how to be responsible, how to take care of your family, how to defend your family, how to take yourself from, having nothing, being in financial struggle and trying to figure out what you wanted to do and what your what your goals were in life, to moving himself forward and upward in society and ultimately working with people in the city of Chicago that were in high offices, aldermen and policymakers and union people and then ultimately in the industry of boxing, where he became a professional referee. So I was able to see his growth as a man from when he was a fairly young man in his 30s, early 30s, to becoming a man that was fully developed, that took care of his family, that excelled both in his personal life and his personal goals, and financially as well. And I think that left an impression not only on myself but on my siblings, and I attribute seeing that to the success that we have in our family. The fact that he was able to demonstrate it first by his actions and by his commitment, and how we saw that and followed suit.
And then how did boxing interlace into your childhood? Did he become an official like later, or like was he always into boxing? Like that's why I asked, because it was just like I imagine having a dad and having him like lace up the gloves and be like, look, this is how you do a left jab. Like, was boxing part of his life?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Boxing is always something that my father was always interested in. I think, just like everybody, you start off as a fan, first of all. I can recall, one of the first memories that I have of really experiencing and really acknowledging how boxing was influential in our lives was that my father used to work out at the CYO Catholic Youth Organization gym in Pilsen on Allport Street, and that was run by Chicago boxing legend Sean Curtin. Rest in peace and shout out to Sean.
Shout out.
Yeah, great boxing man, and he started off, there just going to the gym, working out, hitting the bag, doing sparring, and I think at first he had ambitions of wanting to to be a fighter, and become professional, and ultimately it somewhere along the line I'm sure it diverted. And his interest became, changed, I should say, and he decided to pursue boxing officiating. And I think that ultimately he just wanted to do something that involved boxing and wanted to be involved in any way he could.
Yeah.
And I think that he found officiating as a thing that he could really do and do well and be good at, and ultimately enjoy his passion and what he what he liked. But when I mentioned the boxing, I remember my father and my uncles sitting around the TV watching the Julio Cesar Chavez versus,
that was it right there, man.
Yeah, versus Wilfredo Gomez fight.
Ooh, that first one, you remember that one?
Oh yeah, man, I remember that. I remember being in the house and we were barbecuing outside, and then we were watching the fight on the inside on it was on closed circuit or
closed circuit.
Yeah, man, it was.
And he was supposed to get beat down. Like Julio Cesar Chavez was not supposed to win that fight.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And so
and you're Puerto Rican too.
Puerto Rican. That's
so
right.
You were going for Wilfredo?
Yeah, absolutely, man. My whole family was. It's
okay.
The whole rivalry. The Puerto Rican Mexican rivalry that's
Macho
still alive.
Camachos.
Absolutely, Macho Camacho, the Tito Trinidad, Oscar De La Hoya. I mean, so on and so forth, right? I mean, it's such a rich boxing tradition, Mexico versus Puerto Rico, and it's still thriving today. But that was my first memory of that rivalry. That was my first real remembrance of a significant fight, where I remember my family and my father and everybody being so excited about it.
Yeah.
I remember that like it was yesterday, man.
Yeah, my mom would be like, when they would make the national anthem of Mexico, she would make me have to get up and do this.
Yeah.
So we would be the only people at the spot doing it like that. You know what I'm saying? She
Solidarity,
was like, she was like, yo, you got to be proud that you're Mexican no matter what.
Yeah, that's right.
So we were cheering for Julio Cesar Chavez.
Yeah. And
I didn't. You were on the other side. You were cheering for Wilfredo. That's crazy. Yeah. We were like, yo, that's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, man, those Julio Cesar Chavez days were like, dude, that's when they fought each other. But we'll get into that, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, did you ever see anything that you wanted to change?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't need to be like within your family. It could be in the world. It could be in your school. It could be wherever. But like anything that you saw growing up that you wanted to change?
I mean, going back to talking about the neighborhood I grew up in, Logan Square, at that time in Chicago and in the city, there was it was very heavily gang populated, much more so than it is today.
Well, a lot of those areas are gentrified. I mean, even Logan Square has been like super gentrified. It was one of the first gentrified areas in the city.
Yeah. And so, it's definitely not the neighborhood that I grew up in.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was very much the hood back then. And back then in Chicago, you stayed in your neighborhood unless you knew somebody that lived in a different neighborhood and you kind of had safe passage to go into that neighborhood with those people. It's not like that today. So growing up, I saw, a lot of crime. You saw poverty, addiction. You saw things that, that I think motivated myself, motivated our family to want to do better and get out of.
Strive for better.
And so, some of my friends, close friends that I grew up with since we were kids, and, Tyson, I'm sure, talked about it a little bit in his podcast, that we grew up with since we were young, who ended up going to jail or going to prison or dying. People who we were classmates with in grammar school, people who we who spent time with at home at our crib, in the streets. Who we were tight with. I mean, so you see these things and it leaves an impression on you, man. It really does. And I've carried that, with me until adulthood and into fatherhood and how I raise my son and the things that I tell him to be aware of, and to understand that, he probably will never have to live in an environment like that, at least not, as long as I have a say in it, and I have some influence in that. And I'm thankful for that, because some of the things that I saw and I experienced growing up, were definitely impressionable,
traumatizing.
and traumatizing. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I did too, man. Like, I stayed in between the two rival gangs, man, and so it was the Boulevard in Little Village, and so during the night you would hear the whistles, and then they would just call each other out, and you would see somebody get shot, maybe killed, and it was just part of living there, and trying to stay out of it. There were times where I got stood up. I was walking right into my house, like from the outside into the front gate, and somebody stopped me with a gun and was like, throw this down. And I was just like, yo, like I don't gangbang. And then I was like, I'm out here trying to help the neighborhood. Like, what are you doing? And by the end of the conversation, I was screaming at them, which wasn't the smartest thing, right? But I remember being like, y'all are stupid, man. Why you going up to people, like pulling guns on people's faces and stuff like that? But it's just like, it was probably like a recruitment. You know what I'm saying? They were just like, hey, man, go to the other side and get somebody.
Yeah.
And they picked me. And, growing up in that situation, even like getting into your car and like having another car pulled next to you with like everybody in the back and stuff like that, and then getting stolen while you're in your car, and you just like, damn, do I get out? And if I get out, all of them are gonna get out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like those you got to swallow your pride at that moment and just be like, yo, bro, I'm good.
Yeah.
I ain't on that.
I hear you, bro. I had the same thing happen to me, man. I mean, I had somebody pull a gun on me and put it right in my face. This was when I was in the Humboldt Park neighborhood, and I was with a couple of my friends, and we were just out there watching the baseball game at Humboldt Park, and we were leaving, and here comes these two guys walking across North Avenue, and we already knew when we saw them running across that something was up.
Yeah, because of the way that they were probably running.
Yeah,
because they had something on them.
Yeah.
So when you have a gun, you kind of run differently.
Yeah, and one of these guys came up to me, and they thought I was somebody else.
Oh, man.
From a rival gang.
Yeah.
From a different neighborhood, and I told them, listen, at that time we called ourselves neutrons.
Yeah.
We weren't, we were not, part of any gang, even though I knew and I grew up with people who were gang affiliated, but I never.
You never got jumped in.
I never got jumped in. Never wanted to. And I don't. And my father wouldn't have let me either, because he would have jumped on me if I got jumped in.
For sure.
And thankfully, somebody came from his gang, and told him, nah, that ain't him, and spared me, and God's hand was on me at that moment, thankfully. Or times where me and my friends were walking in our own neighborhood, and you hearing gunshots go off, and everybody's ducking on the street, because you don't know who they're shooting at or where the bullets are coming from.
Yeah.
So man, it's one of those things, again, like I said, where thankfully my son will never have to experience that, or I pray he doesn't have to. But those are things that, again, those are traumatizing things, and those are things that leave a lasting impression on you, man. And they really, form the way that you act, the way that you think, the way that you walk, the way that you look at, the way that you look at other people. Your whole character, absolutely.
Yeah, man. I mean, I know that you were talking about your son and then teaching him street smarts. It's just it's crazy, because we had to survive in that, and it was just like nobody was teaching us street smarts. We were learning.
Yeah.
Like if a couple guys are crossing the street and they're like, when at that time, I don't know how gangbangers run right now, you know what I'm saying? But they used to skip. It was like a skip that they used to have.
Yep.
And it was just like, you knew that they weren't just running across the street.
Yep.
Like they had some and they were holding it in their
skipping
waistband
across
and skipping.
and whistling, whistling out, trying to give the signal to other people that, something was up.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, you already knew the signs, you could tell something was up. You were like, oh man.
And I mean, that's what I would, if I had boys, and even my girls, right? But like when they grow up, it's like that's what I would be like. When the environment changes, you feel it.
Yep.
It's like the energy is sucked from the place.
Yeah.
That's when you step outside and you just like, yo, I'm not trying to see what's gonna happen. I'm just, I don't feel right. Like your spidey sense. Listen to your spidey sense because it'll keep you safe.
Yeah, it's interesting because my I don't know if my son got that from me or he somehow did develop that on his own. We were at a pizza shop one time in near Northside, and we were just grabbing a slice, and this was probably about 9-10 o'clock at night, so we were grabbing a late slice, and in walks this dude, and this was about the time during COVID or just slightly after the pandemic, about 2022 I want to say, give or take, and a guy walks in with a hoodie and with a mask on, and nobody else at that point was wearing masks, or they had they had.
It was like a medical mask, or it was like
it was
like
just
a ski mask,
like a ski mask.
Okay, yeah.
And he had his hand in his hood pocket, and you can tell there was something heavy in there. And at first, I wasn't even looking at it. I wasn't even paying attention to it. I was kind of looking at it. I was distracted by something else, and he noticed it. And he had to be around 12, 13 at the time. And he jabs me. He says, "Dad," he says, something's not right with that guy. I don't know. There's something weird about him, And so I look over at him, and I'm looking down, up and scanning this guy up and down. I'm like, yeah, something's up with this dude, man, because everybody else is not looking like that. And then I look out the door of the pizza shop, and there's a car parked right on the corner, right nearly in front of the door, with a guy hanging out the passenger side, also with a mask and a hoodie on. And I was like, oh no, something's up with this. But he spotted it, and he tells me, "Dad, I don't feel comfortable here. We should go." And I said, "You're absolutely right. Let's walk out." So we didn't even bother. We were standing in line waiting for our order. We just left.
Yeah, we good.
We good. You can keep the pizza. We're good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, man. And so were there, like, talking about that, right? Like, were there any moments in your life when you had to stand up for yourself? And again, it could be like in your school, it could be however, like, what were some moments where you were just like, you had to draw a line in the sand and stand up for yourself?
Yeah, so I mean, I experienced several moments like that in my life. Obviously, I've always been a vertically challenged individual, aka the short kid, growing up. So when you're short and when you're a little guy, people think that they can pick on you or try to bully you.
Yeah.
So that had many moments where I had to stand up for myself in that respect. Not just physically, but also, socially and mentally, where, people think that, because you are a certain ethnicity or you are of a certain stature, that they think that they can take advantage of you or they can take advantage of you. And yeah,
they could do whatever they want. Like they're just like, he's a victim. He's not going to do anything.
Right. And so, I had to deal with that. And
you were the oldest boy though, too.
Yeah.
So you had that energy. What was that like? Those were like two different energies, right? Because you're like the short. You're saying that you were shorter than everybody else, but then you're the only boy within your siblings, and it's just like you're the oldest,
right?
So like, what was it like to like dealing with those energies and forming your character?
So yeah, that helped form my character because I had to learn how to defend myself. I had to learn how to gain confidence, even though you had people that would try to put you down or bully you, and think that they were going to do whatever they wanted. and it helped that I had a father who was, a confident person who was take no bullshit kind of person. He wasn't about to let nobody run up on him, nobody take advantage of him. And he taught me a lot of that, and kind of formed that character in me. And I kind of took a lot of what I learned from him and developed that. So even though I was that little dude, I was a little spark plug. So I was like, nah, y'all, I don't care how big you are. I ain't, I'm not gonna let you,
We gonna go.
Yeah, we're gonna rock. Yeah. And so I learned how to box, with my dad. So I would walk around with, not an arrogance, because
confidence,
but with a confidence like, you can think whatever you want to think, but I know who I am, and I know that you're not gonna, I'm not gonna let you bully me. I'm not gonna let you take advantage of me or my siblings. You know. Thankfully though, my father didn't just teach me how to box. He taught all my sisters how to box too. So trust me.
Somebody was getting jumped, yo.
So trust me, girls were not gonna mess with my sisters. Yeah. Because they were gonna get punched in the face. Yeah. And they were not. Yeah. They weren't gonna play that, man. My sisters, and they all are still. They still go to the gym and they still work out and they still, and they still, one of my sisters is actually married to a guy who is a Muay Thai fighter, who was actually a California middleweight champion in Muay Thai. And so she knows, and she's boxed. They've gone to Thailand and for weeks and
kick the banana trees
and practice Muay Thai and. If anybody messes with her, they're gonna get a
shin or an elbow to the grill.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
yeah, man. And so, is there anything that when you were growing up that you wanted to change in your adulthood? Like anything that you saw growing up that you wanted to change? Like for me, it was like not hitting my kids. I never hit my kids. You know what I'm saying? The other thing is that. I'm like your dad, right? I'm a girl dad, kind of like I have two girls, and like I want to teach my girls how to fight. They're still at the age where they're like, I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to hit pads. I'm like, yo, you got to learn how to hit these pads. Yeah, because somebody's gonna test you, and you need to be able to defend yourself. So yeah, I want to be like your dad, where it's like I'm teaching my girls how to fight too. Yeah. But anything that you saw growing up that you wanted to make a change in your adulthood?
I think the biggest thing I wanted to change in my adulthood was, my environment and not allowing where I came from to affect my future. Seeing, like I said earlier, the crime and the poverty and addiction in your own family. I had family members, unfortunately, who were involved in crime, who were addicted to drugs, who, did some things that, were terrible. And seeing that, seeing those things growing up, they help form you. It can either be good or bad. It can form you in a positive way or a negative way. I thank God that he gave me enough emotional intelligence to be able to look at the things that I saw and to say, no, I don't want to go that way. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to be addicted to drugs. I don't want to commit crimes to try to make money. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to have that stigma on my life. And when I have my own family, I certainly don't want them, I don't want to live like that. I don't want them seeing me as that kind of person.
Yeah, to be that example.
Exactly. So with my son, the last thing I would ever have wanted was for him to have a father who was addicted to drugs or was a criminal or was somebody who was not a good, positive member of society. How would that have formed him as a person? And I, you and I were talking earlier about legacy pieces. My son is my legacy piece. Yeah. He's my legacy. If I don't leave a positive lasting impression on him and do everything I can to allow him to have the best kind of life and to see and live the best kind of life, then what kind of legacy am I really leaving?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, the same thing with my daughter. Is just like, I think that having children is really beneficial because what you get to do is you get to heal yourself in real time, right? Like the example was like hitting my kids, right? Like I never hit my kids, and it's because it was something that I grew up experiencing for myself, you know? And so there are other ways to discipline, and I think that you get that opportunity when you're becoming a parent to like deal and grapple with those things that you've kind of held on to, but you need to let go in order to grow as a person. Because you don't want, like I always say this in the podcast, it's like there's a movie called Dragon. I don't know if you ever saw it. It's about Bruce Lee's life.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so in the movie, the samurai, he has this reoccurring nightmare where the samurai is fighting against him, and every nightmare, the samurai gets bigger, gets stronger, gets bigger armor, and then when he has his kid, Brandon calls him from the corner and is like, Bobby, or Daddy, or whatever he's saying, and then the samurai turns around and looks at Brandon and starts chasing Brandon, and so it's like the metaphor of like, you have to deal with it so that your children don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's something that I try to do with my children is like deal with it right now. You know, we were talking about it off camera as well, like becoming sober, right? It's one of those things that you saw growing up, that I saw growing up, that I was just like, yo, I need to make this change because I don't want my children to have to deal with that type of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And luckily they've never seen me like that. Like I saw my father, you know?
Yeah.
Talking about that, like, are there any moments in your life when you had to make a pivot that led you to the place that you're at, where it was just like, man, the fork in the road type situation? Do I go right? Do I go left? Like, obviously, like not taking drugs is one of them, right? Like you were talking about that, but any other ones that you had where it was just like, what road do I take?
Yeah, I've had a few pivotal moments like that in my life. I think when I look at my life, I think the most obvious and pivotal moment was in 2013, 14, when I was going through a pretty contentious divorce with my son's mother.
Mm-hmm.
That was an extremely dark and challenging time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that anybody that has been through that kind of process, been through a divorce, or been, especially when you have children, can understand and relate to that. And that moment, I was searching for meaning and for purpose in my life as a man.
Mm-hmm.
When you have invested all of your time and your effort and your love and your finances and everything, basically your entire life, and devoted your entire life to trying to care for your family and to care for your spouse, and it doesn't go the way that you planned it, it can really take a toll on you. Mentally, emotionally, physically, in all kind of ways. And again, going back to what I was saying about, which way do you, what way do you go? You can either let it affect you positively or negatively.
Mm-hmm.
And so, going through that situation, I was searching for purpose. I was searching for meaning. Especially after my divorce was over, and having to adjust to being a single dad, and trying to keep myself together emotionally and physically for the sake of my son, for the sake of myself, and trying to be in a better place. And that was a very pivotal moment in my time, and it ultimately, I think that, God allows things to happen in your life for you to find your purpose and to find, your true meaning and what you're, what you want to do. And ultimately that pivotal moment in my life led me to what I do now, which is boxing officiating.
So that's when you started.
So, yeah. So, interestingly enough, growing up, my father was obviously involved in boxing. Yeah, it was about a year and a half, close to a year and a half after, my divorce was finalized. And again, like I said, I was looking for, purpose and meaning. At that time, I just felt, I had a great job. It was stressful, but it was very well compensated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was adjusting to, life as a single dad and trying to be the best I could be for my 6-year-old son at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I felt like I didn't have what I needed as a man for myself. I needed something for my own personal development to feel like I was more than just, a guy working a 9-to-5, who's a dad.
Yeah.
And at that point I started searching for something. And I didn't even realize that I was searching for it, but I think we all go through that journey when we're searching for something of meaning and of value, and our purpose. And when we do it, we either eventually find it or it finds us. And that about that time is when I had a conversation with my father about life and about purpose and meaning. And it was a deep conversation where we both shared a lot of history about our own life. He shared a lot of things about his journey and his life growing up, and his with his family,
his growing process,
what he went through. Yeah, the growing pains he went through, the things that he saw, that we were talking about earlier, the things that formed his character. The neighborhood he grew up in, the examples that he saw, both positive and negative. And when we had that conversation, it led to him suggesting that I volunteer with amateur boxing. Because at that time, I wasn't involved in any way with boxing.
Wow.
Other than being, a fan like everybody is that's a fan of a sport.
Yeah.
I was a fan of boxing. I'd always been a fan of boxing, because of, my dad. And I'd always followed the fights and the fighters. Not to the extent that I do now, but still, I was a casual fan. So anytime there was a big fight on, I was watching it, with friends and,
Yeah, it was part of your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to see the big fights.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but that was the extent of my involvement in boxing. That was it, just being a fan, right? But when he suggested that I volunteer in boxing as a way to kind of do something with my time, with idle time that I may have, and also to kind of, as a way of, and maybe I didn't even realize that at the time, but as a way of getting out of your own head and not making it about yourself, and trying to do something for the benefit of others, for the benefit of a community and of kids and of other people, and in some way trying and finding your purpose that way, or finding something, right? So, when he suggested that, at first I was a little, I wasn't sure, you weren't
sold.
Yeah, I wasn't completely sold on it. Cause, growing up, like I said, I saw my father, in the boxing game, and I knew all of the things that he did. But I didn't want to get involved in boxing officiating because I always thought that was my father's thing.
Yeah, I'm not trying to copy him, man. I'm on my own thing.
I'm trying to be my own man. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to find something that was unique and specific to me, and not follow necessarily in his footsteps. Not that I thought that it was, what he was doing was anything bad or anything, that I didn't consider, positive, but I just wanted to find my own path, right?
For sure.
And I think as young men, we have an ego, and we want to kind of pave our own way and show our fathers or our father figures that we're a man and we can do it.
Yeah, we're our own man.
We can find our own way. We can do our own thing. And be successful.
Yeah.
So thankfully, though, like I said, he introduced me to boxing by advising me to volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I mean, that was the best thing that ever happened, man. Because it's led me to where I am now.
Man, I mean, my story is like that. So, 2017. That's crazy. Around that time, newly sober, right? Have a lot of time on my hands. Got advice. It's like, hey man, you used to box, right? Yeah. Why don't you go to the boxing gym and train and train other people or whatever? Get outside yourself, right? So I go to the boxing gym, and I actually used to be part of the executive board of that boxing gym. Like a long time ago when it was first somewhat starting, like maybe it had been around for like maybe 2 years before I got it, before I was in the executive board. And I was in the executive board for a while. So the trainers all knew me as like the executive board member. You get what I'm saying? Whenever we had meetings. And so I came into the gym, and I just started, I started working on the bags and stuff. And then Gabriel Navarro was looking at me, and he was like, hey bro, you pretty good, dog. You pretty good. And I was like, yeah, I used to box in high school, whatever, at St. Rita. We used to have fight nights, and I used to box with the Matadors. And he was just like, oh, for real? He's like, yeah, man, you should start sparring. So I started sparring, I'm doing good in the sparring. And they were like, hey man, have you ever thought about competing? I'm like, bro, I'm old as hell, bro. Like, what you talking about, man? He's like, no, there's a category called the Masters, and it's 35 and plus. And I was 37 at the time. And he was just like, man, you should think about doing it. Right. And so, I ended up, it was that same space that you were in where it was like, I needed to find myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, hit rock bottom, made dumb decisions, and decided to change my life. And now it's like I'm working out and like trying to get outside myself and like occupy my time, because now I'm not out drinking with people. You know what I'm saying? Like, and getting healthy. And it was interesting, man. The first fight that I got with Gabriel was in the office. And he was just like, he was talking to Sam on the phone, and we were having power gloves. And he was like, you down to fight? I'm like, yeah, man, let's go. I'm down. And he was just like, all right, bet. He's like, I think he's on the phone, right? He's like, Sam, you got a 175 pounder? Yeah. Okay. I was like, you ready? We're going to make this fight. And I'm in the office, and I'm just like, man, let's go. Right. And so he's like, I'm like, hey, but ask him like how he fights. He's like, hey, Sam, how does he fight? He's like, oh, he's crazy. Oh, he's crazy. I was like, what you mean he's crazy?
What does that mean?
He's like, yeah, like he fights crazy. Like he goes ham. Like, what you mean? He's like, hey man, what you mean? Like, does he go crazy? He's like, he's crazy? No, he's like really crazy. He's like, he's really crazy. I'm like, all right, man, let's go. You know, I'm not gonna back down. Like, I had already made a commitment. I'm fighting, right? Yeah. So the story is a little bit longer, but it's just like, the night of the fight, we end up sitting next to each other, We end up in the washroom. I know he's my opponent already because we already measured. I measured him up when I was standing in line to get weighed in, right? I was like, he's that guy. He's like, hey, man, don't beat me up. I'm sick, right? So I'm like, all right. So he's like, don't beat me up because I'm sick and my girlfriend's out there and I don't want my girlfriend to see me get beat up. And I'm in the washroom after he's like, we figure out we're opponents.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that was weird. So I come back to my whole family's there, bro. Like everybody's like, this is my first fight as an adult. So everybody came out. So I'm like, man, this dude is weird, bro. Like he stopped me in the washroom and he's like, don't beat me up because my girlfriend's there and I don't want to see my girlfriend. I don't want my girlfriend to see me get beat up. So then we come out, they call us up, right? We go get our gloves and then we go up for our fight. And as I'm going up for my fight, I have my mouthpiece in, but I'm trying to look super mean. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking real mad and I'm trying to like, just overcompensate because I'm just like, this guy needs to be intimidated by me right now, right? So somebody taps me on my way in. They were like sitting ringside. They tapped me on my leg and they're like, hey, bro, why you so mad? And Gabriel was like, oh, no, it's because his mouthpiece. And I just started busting out laughing. At that moment, I knew you're taking yourself way too serious, bro. Like, you here to have fun. You know what I'm saying? So then we're walking into the ring and I'm like, hey, what's he doing? And Gabe is like, I don't know, bro, but he's downing a Red Bull right now. And I was like, what you mean he's downing a Red Bull? My opponent's downing a Red Bull, dog. I was like, oh my God, right?
You needed to get hyped up.
Man, so he got hyped up, bro. So he's getting hyped up right before he gets in the ring. We finally get in the ring. He's a southpaw. And the first round beats my butt, bro. Like totally beats my butt. And I imagine my family, they tell stories, but they were probably like, damn, it says, who's getting beat up out there, man? Is like, I thought he was good, man. This dude's getting beat up. And so anyway, long story short.
This is the same guy in the bathroom that told you not to beat him.
Exactly, dude. And he was built, bro. He was like cock diesel, dog. This dude was like a bodybuilder. And so it was just like all mental games. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, he did the okie doke on you, man.
I learned that day. But I learned not to take it serious, to have fun.
Yeah.
To be ready and to not be influenced by muscles. Because I got him in the second round. Okay. Like I stunned him and he fell back into the ropes and I was like swinging on him. You know what I'm saying? But then Sam told him how to evade me in the third round and then he ended up winning the fight. But it wasn't like he just whooped my ass the whole fight. So I held my own. But yeah, he that was my first fight as an adult. But that's to go back to your story. It was like I did it to change my life and because I was in that moment where it was just like I need to find myself, right? And how was it like for you to see your dad and to be? I mean, did you go to the fights that he was reffing?
Yeah. So
how old were you when you were going to those?
So yeah, my father got started in officiating probably like in the mid to late 80s in the amateurs. Same way I got started. And so I remember going with him, you know, early on and going to, tournaments. Golden Gloves was the most significant tournament, still is the most significant tournament in Chicago.
Shout out
to the Chicago Golden Gloves, man. I mean, we're the originals, you know.
Yeah.
And so I used to go there with St. Andrew's Gym and see my father do, amateur fighting, amateur officiating. I went to a few local pro shows that he did when he first got started and, midway through his career, mostly here, like in the UIC Pavilion or Rosemont Horizon at the time was Rosemont Horizon. That was Allstate
the Winthrop. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so, went to a few of those shows, the Aragon Ballroom. So I got to see my father locally. Unfortunately, I was never able to travel with him abroad. I mean, those are professional business trips. So, whenever he would go to do a fight abroad, he would go on his own and, he'd come back and, let us know how the fight went and, what happened. But yeah, it definitely had, it's interesting because as much time as I spent going with him, seeing him do his thing in boxing, it never really like clicked as far as me having the interest to follow him early on.
Yeah.
And like I said, going back to my story about, that pivotal moment in my life, it wasn't until then when I was searching for purpose and meaning in my life, where that connection came together.
Yeah.
So seeing, what he did and his career, and ultimately when I made the decision to start my boxing officiating career, my father had already retired from officiating, from both amateur and professional officiating.
Yeah.
So it was almost kind of like, in a sense, the torch was passed.
Yeah.
He was leaving and I was entering the game. And I wanted to, when I got into it, I first of all, I just got into it to do something, to find, something to do, something of interest.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I was there, bro.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. And, but once I started doing it more and started, enjoying it, first of all, when I went to my first professional, my first amateur, event, first amateur show, it was actually a CYBC show. It was a Power Glove show.
Oh, for real?
This is when they had it at the high school.
They had it at Northside College Prep, right?
No. This was on the south side. This was in Douglas Park.
Yeah, Northside College Prep.
Is that Northside College? Okay.
Yeah.
And so they had it there.
No. Sorry. North Lawndale.
North
College
Lawndale.
Prep.
Yes. That's what it is.
There it is. Sorry.
And
my
so I went there and I, started, judging at first. I wasn't, refereeing. I remember maybe the third day of the Power Gloves, they threw me in to referee, the peewees, 8 or 9 year olds.
Yeah.
And man,
I saw somebody get thrown in just recently.
Yeah,
like that.
Man, I was terrible, man. I was. I mean, you saw him. He was light years ahead of what I was. I was bad. Yeah. And even though, even though I had my father who was a professional, referee and was a excellent, great championship level referee. It's different when you're doing it when you're doing it, when you're in there.
Yeah. Because you're thinking the whole time, and you're thinking about where you're moving.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like I've been dabbling with it a little bit, and it's just like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Do I say something? Do I not say? Hold on.
Right.
But we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that part.
But yeah, man, I fell in love with it, man. I really did. I fell in love with the amateurs, which I still volunteer and do today, even though I'm also a professional boxing official. And I don't think I'll ever stop doing the amateurs as long as I can help it. My father officiated amateurs throughout his entire career and through his professional career as well, because he always remembered where he came from. He always wanted to remember what made him and what took him to where he got to. And I feel the same way. The Chicago boxing community has given so much to me. I've learned so much. I've made so many good friends and acquaintances. And I feel like I have a duty and a responsibility to give back to the community that raised me.
Yeah.
That helped get me to where I am and is helping me to get to where I want to be.
Yeah.
And so, and it also gives me a sense of pleasure and a sense of accomplishment to help, young people, to help, the youth, do something positive with their lives, to get off the streets, to get out in front of away from the TV and the Xbox and to get in the gym and to be involved in a sport and to develop their, themselves physically. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel like I'm, helping, not just, me and my own, but other people outside of me.
For sure, man. I mean, My grandmother always used to say, "Cada cabeza es un mundo," right? Like everybody's head is another world, and it's just like those young people, especially people who box, like they're going through a lot, man. I mean, imagine like when I was boxing in high school, like I was going through a lot, like everybody has these rich stories and they're all putting it on. They're like finally showing off all the work that they've done in the ring. What advice did your dad give you when you started getting into officiating to look out for it? Like what were his words when you were like, you went up to your dad and you're like, yeah, I'm going to take this serious. And, how did he react to that?
He was happy. And I think I think first of all, he was happy that I was following in his footsteps and that I was,
proud dad.
Proud dad. And that I enjoyed it, that I legitimately, that it wasn't something that was forced on me. It wasn't something where I was doing it to please him. Mm-hmm. He suggested it. I decided, okay, let me try it. Right. And when I did, I absolutely fell in love with it. And going back to what I was telling you earlier, I had, while he was doing it, my ego didn't want to let me follow in his footsteps. And I wanted to pave my own way and carve out my own path.
Well, it's complicated, right? Because he's also the disciplinarian.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, you're not just seeing him as a regular person. You're seeing him as a person that's telling you what you cannot do.
Right.
So that energy comes in like choosing to do it or not. Is like, he's the person that tells me I can't have that candy. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's right. So yeah, you feel like you want to like buck the system, right? And kind of do your own thing. But like I said, ultimately he was happy, he was pleased. And I think what he stressed to me the most was, if you're going to do this, be serious about it, and be the best that you can be. And one of the things he ultimately told me, if you're going to referee, because at first I started off just judging, right?
Yeah.
And then I transitioned into refereeing. And he said, well, if you're going to be in the ring and referee, I got one piece of advice for you. He said, stay out of the way and let them fight.
Nice.
And that was the biggest piece of advice and the most important piece of advice he gave me. And I still think about that every day, every time I step into the ring. That advice runs through my head.
Yeah, step out of the way and let them fight.
Step out of the way and let them do their thing. Nobody came to. That's what he was telling me. Nobody came to see the referee.
Yeah,
get out of the way and let them do their thing. Mm-hmm. Let them fight. He goes, you're only there to make sure that nobody gets hurt,
keep safe,
and to keep them safe and to enforce the rules. Other than that, it ain't your fight. Let them fight their fight.
Yeah.
And I've taken that to heart. I've really, really tried to implement that in my style and what I do. I've over the last few years, especially since I started my professional career, I think that my mindset has elevated even more. I've always wanted to try to do the best I can at whatever I was doing.
Yeah.
But I think that when I started as a professional, I really wanted to understand the professional side of it, be the best I could be as a professional, and understand that I have a responsibility to these fighters. And I need to take that responsibility as seriously as I can. And I do.
And there's a fine line though. The fine line is like staying out of the way from their fight and keeping them safe. How do you tote that line? And amateurs is different. I mean, it's still high stakes, but it's not as crazy as high stakes. In professional fights, that's super high stakes, right?
Yeah.
That'll make or break a fighter. A lot of money is put behind people, and it's just like there's a lot of pressure. Right. How do you stay out of the fight and keep people safe?
Yeah, I mean it's a fine line that you got to walk sometimes. I mean and it really, like you just said, there's a lot of high stakes, and especially when it's a championship fight. There's a lot of money on the line. There's people's careers on the line. Now, as an official, I can't go into the ring thinking about those things, but in the back of my mind, I understand what's at stake. Yeah. I understand that I have a responsibility not only to the fighters, but I have a responsibility to the stakeholders of that fight, the people that promote the fight, the people that are in the corners of that fighter, who are also invested in that fight, who have put in their time and their blood, sweat, and tears into helping train them, or helping take care of them, or helping keep them their nutrition, or help them cut weight. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of people involved. Yeah. And I have to take my job as responsibility, and my responsibility as much as possible to make sure that I do what's right for the fighters. Yeah. And for everyone that's involved, but specifically for the fighters. So in regards to keeping them safe, again, it's almost, as you gain experience, you kind of learn, and you trust your judgment. Mm-hmm. You trust that, you trust your eyes, what you're seeing. You want to make sure, number one, that no one takes any unnecessary damage. Mm-hmm. And you kind of got to trust and gauge what you're seeing, and weigh that with how much tolerance you can have. And also enforcing the rules to make sure that it's an even and fair fight across the board for both fighters. I have no preference. Red corner, blue corner, it makes no difference to me. Yeah. There are two fighters in the ring, and both of them want an equal opportunity to fight their fight and do the best they can. Yeah. So it can be a fine line sometimes, though. Like I said, especially when the stakes are very high. And thankfully, I'm still learning, and I'm still growing as a professional, as an official, period. Yeah. And I'll always continue to grow. This is one of those things where you continue to evolve, and you continue to grow, and you continue to improve, and it never stops. And at any time that you think that you've gotten there, that's where a big mistake can happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
you got to stay humble, man, because you're always growing.
Absolutely.
And so, kind of talking about like, what's your process like when you're refereeing? Like, how do you get yourself psyched up to be a ref?
Yeah, so I mean,
like, do you go in a room and you like put incense on, and like how do you get yourself? Because as a fighter, you have to get yourself into a place to fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I have to calm my breathing down. Yeah. Especially because it's about to happen. Like, you can't let your heart get crazy, because if that's all your energy that's gonna be expounded. So it's just like, relax. This when I won the championship, bro. Like it was the 100th anniversary of the Golden Gloves. Yeah. In Chicago. Yeah. And right before our fight, I don't know if you were reffing, so you had to have known that we were waiting for like 30 minutes.
Yes.
They had like a presentation.
They had a presentation, yep.
And like everybody went into the ring and stuff, and I had already warmed up, and I'm sitting there like,
oh, so you had already warmed up, and then all of a sudden they did their presentation. They brought up all the champions, all the fighters. Yeah.
And I'm like, my opponent came up to me and was like, man, they're putting us on ice. And I was like, yeah, dude. So it's like, it was cool to fight with somebody that wasn't trying to be like all intimidating. Like, we doing this for fun. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I knew going into that we were going to have fun. And it was just like, Yeah, it was refreshing, but we were waiting for a long time.
Man, I didn't even realize that your fight was the fight after that whole presentation, because that was a long presentation.
A long time, bro. We were sitting there and people were coming to see me, and I was just like, I don't know what to tell them. Like, I'm not fighting it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I had lathered up, like I had that sweat on me. I was ready to go, and then sit down, wait for that presentation.
Yeah. But you know what? As far as my process, I don't really have a process, I guess. As cliche as it might sound, I don't get ready. I stay ready.
Damn.
You know
Let's
what
go.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
I keep myself in top physical condition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to be able to make sure that I ain't breathing hard from the first round to the 12th round.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want me to do three 12-rounders back to back, I'll do them and won't
Flinch.
It won't flinch. It won't breathe hard at all.
Yeah.
That's number one. So I want to make sure, you know, and most importantly, because this is another one of the things that my father stressed to me when I became a professional official, is that you are in the ring with professional athletes who are at the peak top condition
Of their life.
physical condition of their lives, or should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't be in there looking like a bum. You shouldn't be in there looking like out of shape, looking, you know, tired, looking like you can't keep up with them. He goes, that's not a good representation of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, you look at some of the other professional officials in other sports, whether it's the NBA, the NFL, some of these guys are jacked. Mm-hmm. Some of these guys are like, they look like they walked out of the gym.
Yeah, I mean, in the NBA, you got to run back and forth with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
NFL, you see, I
Soccer.
was just watching the NFL game last night, and the main official, the head referee, man, that dude looked like he was in a bodybuilding contest.
Oh, nice.
I mean, and so, you know, not that you do it to look good, so to speak, but you do it so that you represent the sport in a positive way.
Yeah.
You want to be in the best physical condition that you can be. Yeah. You don't have to look like a bodybuilder, but you want to be in good physical condition so that you are doing right by the fighters. That you're quick to move, that you're quick to react, that you're quick to grab somebody so that somebody, you know, that they don't get hurt or they don't hurt somebody else.
They're putting their lives on the line with you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you are keeping them safe. So no matter what, like your ego, whatever. You know, just recently I saw a fight, and in the fight, what ended up happening was they were older fighters, maybe not they were senior probably, if not masters, and one guy was just getting outclassed, where it was just like this guy, the one of the corners was super sharp, like hitting angles and like hitting sharp punches, and the other guy was just pushing his punches, leaving himself out of position, and then super slow. He could not like respond to the other guy's sharpness, and I had knowing boxing and knowing what was going on in the ring, I was like, this dude is gonna get knocked out for sure, and he ended up getting knocked out pretty bad, where it was just like he was lying on the floor for a second.
Wow.
You know, and so as the ref, how do you deal with somebody that's completely being outclassed, where it's just like, man, like you could foretell that he's not stopping the punches. And so what was happening was, because he was pushing his punches, he was lunging. And when he was lunging, he was leaving himself out there. And the other guy was just taking advantage while his hands were right here and like punching him. And you were saying something about like, so how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think that you have to see that from the very beginning as an official. As a referee, you have to, know, you should know from the first 5-10 seconds of when that fight starts, whether or not a fighter or either fighter has the capability to intelligently defend themselves and to be able to respond and counter back to punches that are being, that they're receiving. in those situations, if I see a fighter that I think is outclassed right from the very beginning, and sometimes you can see that before the fight even starts. Sometimes you can see it in the body language of the fighter when they're in the corner, the way that the way that they're moving, the way that they're or
they're hyping themselves up
or shadow boxing. It's funny. Me and one of the other officials, we have this kind of like code or this kind of like signal that we make to each other, this unspoken signal where we know a fighter's completely outclassed. We kind of like clap our hands to each other like this, basically like, letting them know like this, this guy doesn't have it. He's not, he's not a good fighter.
Yeah.
And so, you can see it right away. And in those situations, I make sure that I stay closer than I generally do in most fights to make sure that if that fighter doesn't demonstrate the ability to defend himself intelligently, the ability to throw punches with meaning, with force, with his shoulder behind it, and if that fighter's just taking damage and he's fighting a fighter that is completely out of his league, that you stay close enough to where if he takes a combination, one or two strong punches that snap his head back or that he doesn't respond well to, at that point you just stop the fight.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you may get opposition or complaints from the corner. But at the end of the day, this is amateur boxing.
Yeah.
They're not pros. They're not making, money. There's no contract on the line. There's no belt on the line. So, this is for competition only.
Yeah.
And there's no competition if one side is not competitive.
Yeah.
So you have to, be aware of that and make sure that, that fighters doesn't take unnecessary damage and is safe.
Yeah. Yeah, because I could imagine like the corner would be like, come on, man, why you stopping it?
Yeah.
Before he got knocked out. But I mean, maybe it was the angle that I was at, but I was just like, this dude, he's not going to last, man.
Yeah.
He's totally out of position and like just leaving himself open for no reason.
I mean, you're a fighter, so you can, when you're in the ring with a fighter that is outclassed or when you're in the ring with a fighter who's way more, has way more ability than you do.
Yeah.
But when you're in a situation, when you're seeing something where you know that this is not going to end well, you have to take precautionary measures, and you have to be sure that, okay, I'm not going to let, this guy take anything serious. I mean, this is going to be over pretty quickly, regardless of anybody's complaints.
Yeah. And then the other thing is like, once you get knocked out, right, they take your book and you're MIA, like you cannot train and spar for how long?
It depends on the nature of the knockout. So generally they start off with a 30-day restriction. But in a situation like you just described, where he took a knockout and he was out for 30 seconds or a minute, it could be 60 days, it could be 90 days. It all really depends on what the doctor and the chief of officials decide is the most appropriate time for them to be restricted from fighting again. And the restriction is not just a safety, medical restriction to make sure that they don't have any repercussions from like a concussion or some medical issue, but it's also to give that fighter time to actually get better, to actually go into the gym and improve and their skill set and become a better fighter, so that when they're rematched again in the future, that they're putting on a better performance and defending themselves better.
And can they spar, or is it like, do you tell the trainer don't spar?
They're not supposed to spar. Okay. Technically, yeah. The restriction is not just a restriction for competition in an event, but it's also a restriction for them to be actually in the ring in a USA boxing gym. Yeah. Does that always happen? I don't know. It really all depends, I guess, on the gym that you're going to and how seriously they take it.
Yeah.
But if anybody, if you're in a respectable gym and 99% of I feel 99% of our gyms here in Chicago, they take it very seriously.
Yeah.
And if they see that a fighter does not have the ability to perform, and defend himself intelligently in the ring, they're not going to even want to match him up in a fight.
For sure.
And they definitely shouldn't be allowing him to spar against somebody unless they feel that, the sparring is light. Mm-hmm. And most sparring, as most sparring should be. Yeah. When you're going sparring, you're not going 100%. You're going 60, 70% at best. And that's where you should be, because essentially sparring is a learning tool. Sparring is training. Sparring is you're in the ring to spar, to improve and to work on things, not necessarily to fight a competitive fight.
And for me, it's respect.
Right.
It's like I go with the energy. I match energy.
Yeah.
When I spar, so it's like if a person's going for my head, mm-hmm. I'm gonna go for their head.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But if they come to me and when I hit them and I hit them hard and I know I connected, I'm like, are you good? Mm-hmm. And if they say they're good, then we keep going, right? So it's not like I'm all crazy, but I have been in situations where I get into a sparring match and this dude just starts swinging at me like hard.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, I ain't gonna let you do that now.
No.
And so I match energy. So it's like, but with my sparring partners, like not, you just don't drop into a gym and like, or people who you don't know, but like the people who I do spar with,
yeah,
it's always like, are you good?
Yeah.
You good to go? Okay, let's keep going.
Right. I think that, there should be, or if you're in a gym where you have coaches that understand the sport, they understand that sparring is competitive, but it shouldn't be. It's not equivalent to an actual real fight. You're in there to improve and to work on things. You're not in there to throw bombs and hurt people. Even on the professional level, they don't allow sparring to reach a full 100% max. They don't, because they're concerned that
your fighter's going to get hurt.
Fighter's going to get hurt, right?
Yeah, and then you're not going to get paydays.
And a lot of times, we look at fighters on the professional side, at least, and you see damage. You see them neurologically affected later on in their careers or after their careers are over. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that damage occurred in sparring.
Exactly.
It didn't even occur in the actual fight.
Yeah, because it's the damage. Yeah, because it's like
the cumulative damage.
You're going into a fight. Like for me, it's like a month before my actual, like maybe 2 months before my actual match is when we start like sparring a little bit more heavily.
Right.
The week before the fight, I don't spar at all.
Right.
It's all just like healing and trying to make the weight. But it's just like, yeah, I've seen people go into sparring sessions and just like go ham.
Yeah, I mean, people have egos. They have something to prove, and they feel like, okay, in sparring, I'm going to get the best of you. And, the competitive nature, right, of people in a gym, they want to one-up each other, right? But that's not what it's there for.
And then you have the professional fighters, man, that be talking smack.
Yeah.
They be like, yeah, I beat you in sparring. Like, that doesn't mean anything. To a real fighter,
no,
that doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
Because that fighter could have been working on defense that whole time.
Right.
And
right.
you had no idea what that fighter was working on. So it's just like sparring. The other thing is like recording sparring. Like if you're recording sparring for yourself, that's cool. If the other fighter that you're fighting, somebody's recording for them, that's cool. But then you have that third person recording the sparring.
Right.
Those are like unwritten gym rules where it's like that third person should not be recording somebody else sparring.
Right. Right. I mean, what happens in the gym stays in the gym, right?
Yeah.
But I think all of those things are regulated by the coach.
Yeah.
Whoever runs that gym, who's ever running that sparring session, they determine what goes on. They determine how hard the sparring goes, whether or not they're going to let these guys just go at each other, or whether we're going to tell these guys, no, we're not. We're going 70%, we're going 80%. That's it. because I'm not trying to have anybody get hurt here. And if I see you go harder than that, I'm taking you out of the ring. You're not coming back.
Yeah.
I've seen good coaches that do that. They set the rules, and you better follow their rules because that's their gym.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you have coaches who may have either less experience or less concern or care, and they just let guys do whatever they want to.
Leg.
Yeah, exactly. Sweep the leg. Exactly, man. They don't care. I mean, they're just gonna let guys go at each other, and I don't think that serves either fighter well, because if you think that you're gaining some moral victory by winning a sparring session, you're not, bro. I mean, listen, that's the time for you to work on stuff. So I mean, yeah, and as far as recording, I agree. that's private. I mean, if the fighters are not cool with you recording, you better turn off that camera. Again, it also goes back to the coach. The coach should be telling people in the gym, you do not record in my gym unless you are authorized to do so.
Yeah.
And if I see you pull out your phone and start recording, you're out. Get out of my gym.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, coach. Because I was just like, man, this dude's gonna get knocked out, bro. And like 2 minutes later, bro, lying stiff as ever on the canvas, and I was just like, man, that I totally knew that was gonna happen. There was no way that
when
was
you
gonna
see
walk
it, man.
out without getting knocked out, man.
Yeah.
That other guy was too fast, and his punches were from the hip.
Yeah.
And like full shoulder punches, just full force. I was just like, bro,
it's dangerous, man. You don't ever want to put in a fighter that's just so such a competitive disadvantage. That's there's no point in having a fight like that. I mean, that comes with matchmaking too. You got to know who you put in your fighters, how you're matching fighters together.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting to see their records.
Yeah,
if this dude only had like 2 fights and if the other guy had like 6 or something.
Yeah,
that's when you see it.
Well, maybe they had the same similar records, right? Or maybe they had similar amount of fights. Mm-hmm. But having a similar amount of fights doesn't mean you have the similar skill set.
Yeah, this dude's been training.
Yeah,
he's been a beast in the gym.
Exactly.
And you fighting a beast. Yep. You're fighting the crazy guy.
Yep, the crazy guy. He's crazy.
Yeah, bro. What you mean? He's just crazy? He's just crazy.
As far as getting ready, like I said, I try to stay ready. I stay, in the rules. I'm always constantly watching boxing. That's one of the things that I do all the time. Boxing is on my television 24/7.
Okay.
I'm watching boxing. I'm watching fighters
in England at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Anywhere and everywhere. It can be any card, and it can be in Africa. It can be in England. It can be in Japan. Yeah. I don't care where it is.
Japan cards are crazy too.
Oh man,
they're like in weird days. They're like Tuesdays or something.
Well, let me tell you something. Japan boxing is phenomenal, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been to Japan. I refereed a fight in Japan. There's no place like it, man. I mean, it's exceptional, and the Japanese fans are exceptional. They know boxing so well. Yeah. Same as the British.
They follow their boxers, yo.
Absolutely. Some of the best fans in the sport, man. Yeah. And they know their boxing, and they know whether you did a good job or whether you did a shitty job.
Yeah.
Just getting prepared, being in the rules, studying the sport, watching other high-level referees do their thing and learning from them, learning both the things that I can add to my skill set and my game and those things that I don't want to do, right? And kind of, using that as a gauge. And then, come fight night, I always joke with the doctor, because I get a pre-fight medical check as a referee just to make sure that my vitals are okay. And one of the things that always happens is my pressure is always sky high during the fight. Usually, I mean, if you take my blood pressure now, it's normal. I mean, I have no blood pressure issues. I don't have high blood pressure at all. Yeah. But on fight night,
you get that adrenaline going.
I get that adrenaline going, and my blood pressure is usually high. Yeah. But it's funny because I always tell the boxer ahead of time. The doctor ahead of time. I tell him, my blood pressure is going to be high. So I want you to already know that. Don't get alarmed by it because it's normal for me. But as soon as I get in the ring, it completely goes away.
Like a fighter.
Completely goes away. Any nervousness, everything.
You focus.
You focus. Once I'm in there, it's like tunnel vision, man. It's like remember Fast and the Furious when he'd have that like focus vision. And everything would get blocked out. Yeah. Kind of same way, almost like a horse with blinders. You don't see anything else.
It's weird because you could hear like the gloves. You know, when somebody squeezes the gloves, yep. Like you can hear that.
Yeah.
You're so focused.
Yes. You're very attuned to what's going on in there. And I make sure that I'm extremely focused on the fighters and what I'm supposed to do in the ring. And I block everything else out. So, fans could be screaming and talking to me. I'm not hearing none of it. I'm just focused on what I need to do. So yeah, like I said, I mean, not necessarily a daily process or any kind of like process I go through on fight night. Again, I stay ready at all times so that that I give my best effort whenever I'm out there.
Yeah, and speaking of Japan, right? Like there was just a card where 2 of the fighters in Japan passed away, and just recently in the amateurs, a masters fighter, which is 35 plus, right? Like the old man, older fighter passed away as well in the ring. Like, how does that affect the sport? Like, what do you think about when those types of things happen? And the fact that in Japan, 2 fighters on the same card passed away is alarming for me. Like, one of the things is like the weight cut, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I say it is like, and I've been guilty of it as well, right? Like not making weight and then having to cut by totally dehydrating myself to make the fight. It's just like, I want to go into this next Golden Gloves like 5 pounds over so that I only have to cut 5 pounds. But I've been in situations where I've had to cut more and the result has been me losing the fight, right? Or one of the reasons, right? But I think of a brain, right? Your brain is filled with water and the water is helping your brain float in your head. And if you deprive your body of water, that means that it diminishes the water that's inside your skull, right?
Right.
And so your brain is not necessarily floating anymore. So when it gets trauma, it bounces off the skull instead of just floating in the liquid that's inside your skull.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that cutting weight has anything to do with it? And how do you prevent something like that? And then how do you move on from that? Because I know Japan is like, we have to look at the rules now.
Yeah.
Like they're really like, we have to make a change because 2 fighters in one card is, you've heard of one fighter as a fluke. Like the last one that I saw was Day.
Yeah, Patrick Day.
And it was actually an official.
Yeah, it was here in Chicago.
Yeah.
With one of our local officials, Celestino Ruiz.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's a mentor of mine, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, it's unfortunate, man. You never want to see that happen in any sport, including and especially our sport.
Yeah.
That should never happen, but unfortunately it does.
Yeah.
It's a reality. It has happened. It's not something that just is a recent thing. It's happened over, throughout the history of the sport. But you're right. There are things that as an industry and as a sport, we can and should be doing to improve the process for fighters to make sure that they're as safe as they can be when they step in the ring.
Yeah.
And one of the things is weight cutting.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to mention real quick is for the people that don't know about boxing and don't know about fighting and cutting weight and why we cut weight. Think of a person that has 0 or like 5% body fat. They're all muscle and a skeleton and tendons, right? They're going to be really tall and slender, right? And so if anybody has more fat, they're going to be shorter. Or if if you get a 150-pound guy that's 100% muscle and just bone and ligaments and whatever, right? And you get a 150-pounder that maybe is not in good condition, the one that's not in good condition is going to be shorter. The one that's in really good condition and has 5% body fat is going to be taller, right? And so as a fighter, the reason why you try to make weight or lose weight is because the less you weigh, the shorter your opponents get. So my opponents, when I fight, are about this much higher than I am. And I know that that's what I'm going to have to deal with going into the tournament, because they're going to come in and have like genes where they never gain any weight. And so I'm just going to be fighting against. But if let's say I decide to go into the next weight category, right? I know I'm going to be fighting way taller fighters. So the only way that I can limit it is by cutting my weight so that I'm able to fight someone that's somewhat my height.
Right.
So that's why we cut weight. So that's why fighters are cutting weight, so that they can have an advantage or kind of take the advantage away from the other fighter that they're fighting. But go ahead.
Yeah, and just like you said, I mean, and we also have to understand that every person is physiologically different from each other. So it may be easy for me to cut 10 pounds of weight in 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, where it might be a struggle for you to cut 3 pounds.
Man, those last 3 pounds, boy.
It's always the last 2 or 3 pounds that are the toughest to cut.
Yeah.
But, I think that where science and medicine, I think, is starting to improve and we as an industry, boxing industry, are starting to get a little more information, a little more knowledge about how to improve that area of the sport. I've attended, a number of medical seminars, including ones where they discussed weight cutting. And that's one of the things that the doctors in those medical seminars have stressed, is in regards to everybody's body is different. And there's no one size fits all weight cutting method for everybody. What may be easy for you may be more difficult for me, and vice versa. So you have to know yourself as a fighter. Your team has to know you,
and exactly
as a fighter.
The team has to see that the fighter's not reacting right.
Correct.
And do the fighter a favor and just call it. But they're so invested in financial gain that comes with that fighter winning that they'll just leave the fighter out there, to potentially have harm put on them.
That's right. And I sometimes, and as a referee,
because you don't know the fighters,
right? As a referee, we sometimes have to save the fighter from both themselves and from their team, because sometimes their team won't stop the fight, even though their fighter is getting hurt badly. And so that's where, as an official, I have to step in, and I have to, as a sole arbiter of the bout, I have to be the one to decide this fighter's had enough, regardless of what his corner may think or feel or believe that he has more in the tank. No, I think that he's taken enough, and I'm not going to allow him to take more damage, because something much more significant and severe repercussion can happen if I allow that, and I don't want that on my conscience, and as his corner, you shouldn't want that on your conscience. But unfortunately, that it happens in the sport. Just like you said, I mean, people have their own personal interests, and why they allow things to go farther than it should. But as far as keeping the fighters safe in the sport, so in regards to keeping the fighters safe, I think that we as an industry are continuing to evolve and improve. I think that the industry has made strides, but when you see a situation like what happened in Japan, which is extremely rare for even one fighter to die, let alone two fighters on the same card, you have to question what is the process, what's going on. First of all, in the fighter's camp, with his training, or was it negligence in regards to officiating? Where did this stem from? How did this happen? To make sure that this does not ever happen again.
And when a fighter's fighting and they're getting beat up, like, you know, when you're getting beat up,
Yeah.
in a close fight, all right, I'll give it to you. But when you're getting beat up, I'm pretty sure that if you've ever stopped a fight, the ego of a fighter might be like, why'd you stop the fight? But you can tell in their eyes that they're glad that you stopped that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
You know
I've
what I'm
had that
saying?
happen several times, you know, and you know, what I try to do is, I think from in my position, and this is something I learned from veteran referees who have done it, you know, on the highest level, is that the most important thing that a referee can have is not, you know, his ability to move in the ring. It's not even necessarily great judgment as far as, you know, when to stop a fight. It's compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Compassion is the most important thing that you can have, because without compassion, you won't stop that fight sooner than it should.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're not compassionate, you don't realize that the person that is taking that punishment is somebody's son, somebody's husband,
Somebody's
or
father.
wife, somebody's father. If you don't see that person as
Or
a
mother,
human
right?
being,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
then you'll let that person, you know, get damaged. And that, you know, that damage doesn't just affect them, it affects everybody that is in their lives. And that's a pretty heavy responsibility to have, you know, but it's one that I welcome, because I feel like, you know, maybe God has given me the grace to understand that,
Mm-hmm.
and to you know, have that in mind when I'm doing my job, and understand that regardless of what anyone thinks, regardless of whether or not they get upset with me because they felt I stopped it too late or stopped it too early, I'm doing it because I have compassion and because I don't want to see this person suffer irreparable harm.
Yeah. And have you ever gotten in a situation where like shady people come up to you and are trying to influence you as an official, or no, they keep away?
You know
or
what?
you never see those people?
You know what? Thankfully I have never had that happen to me. I've never had someone try to influence me or buy my decision. Probably the thing that I have had the most is, you know, a corner, you know, when you're doing your pre-fight instructions and saying, hey, watch out for this or do this, and kind of like trying to influence me to look at the other fighter in a certain way.
Like he holds me. He holds his whole fight.
Exactly.
Like watch out for the holds.
To try to use me to give their fighter an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as, you know, corruption and influencing, I know that unfortunately a lot of fans and the industry itself, the sport itself, has not done it. You know, has not helped itself and its image in regards to
the Olympics.
Yeah,
is a real big situation.
Exactly. That's probably the most recent and most glaring example of our sport shooting itself in the foot.
Yeah.
You know, when you hear about something like that, you know, people that are either both fans of the sport and who are not fans, who are just casual observers, think to themselves, "Oh, this is a corrupt sport. Everybody in this sport that's involved in it, from the promoter to the fighter to the corner to the officials to everyone, is corrupt. Everybody's on the take.
It's a sham. It's a sham.
It's you know." And that's, nothing can be further from the truth, man.
Yeah.
Because the people that are in this sport, they're competitive, mm-hmm. and they you know, they take this seriously, man. They wouldn't be doing it, you know, if they didn't take it seriously and they didn't want to, you know, give the best effort. But unfortunately, you see situations like that, and it has given the sport a bad name.
I mean, you even see, like, as a judge, I've experienced where, like, corners will like be like trying to, I mean, I don't know if they're trying to influence the judges, but you hear them loud and they'd be like, yeah, he's hurt.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he's not hurt, dude.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, or making sounds or something. Like, it's just like, you're as a judge, you're trying to fully concentrate, but you hear this in the background where it's just like, you're overcompensating for your fighter right now, man.
Yeah,
like,
they're trying to get a competitive advantage, man. They're trying to use whatever they can to sway the people who are deciding on the fight. See this or this happened, and that's where your training comes in. Yeah. That's where you have to be able to block out the white noise and the outside noise and focus completely on those fighters and what you're supposed to be doing, and you see what you see and you call what you call, and you try to give. Remember that there's two fighters in there, and they're both trying to hurt each other, and the last thing you want to do is take away the advantage or take away the victory from somebody who earned it. Yeah. And it happens in the sport. People get accused of that was a robbery, and this person should have won the fight, and
yeah, how do you walk away from that? One of the gifts that I've gotten in the program is to they're like little colloquials that we have, right? One of them is keep your side of the street clean, right? So that's like, do what you need to do, live your best life. But once there's a certain amount of work that you do to make things better, but after that amount of work, if you keep your side of the street clean, you could walk away being like, I did my side.
Right.
The other one is, what other people think of you is none of your business. And that's been so liberating for me, man.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, I'm living my life. I'm not worried about what you think about me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the same attitude that you have to have as a ref.
Absolutely.
Especially when you stop the fight. Yeah. And especially when you have those stakeholders that are like wanting their fighter to continue even though they're taking punishment.
Yeah.
And they're like, yo, you stop the fight, you bogus, blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that.
Right.
You got to be able to walk away and just be like, hey, they were getting beat down, man. What you want me to do?
Right.
And just like not let that noise. And then even after that, you have like commentators comment on things, and it's just like, how do you walk, or how have you formed that thick skin to just walk away and just be like, I made the decision I made. I stick by it.
Yeah, just like you said. I mean, you said it perfectly. What other people think of you is none of your business. I understand that these people, whatever angle they're coming from, they have their own personal interests at stake. That doesn't change what I have to do and what my responsibility is in the ring. It can, some people unfortunately are not as mentally tough as others, and they're concerned about, what are they going to think about me if I do this or I do that. And I think that, everybody goes through that. Everybody goes through the process where they question themselves, or they, say, well, should I do this, or, and I think ultimately you have to ask yourself, if I'm going to be concerned about what people think and whether or not they believe that I made the right decision, then maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And perhaps there are some people that need to walk away because they can't shake that. They can't shake the thought that, what are they going to think about me if I stop the fight early, or if I give, this person, who's the B-side fighter, quote unquote, the decision, that's not going to be the popular decision.
And what is that for people that don't know? What's the A-side, B-side?
Yeah. So, and it's really mostly in professional boxing, right?
Man. Or the hometown in amateur would be like the red corner is the hometown guy,
right? Or
the person's gym that's having the show,
right?
And then the person who they get is the opponent is the blue corner,
right? So I think when in regards to that, it's usually the person who's the favored fighter. It could be whether if it's the fight is happening in his hometown, or the fighter's record. maybe the fighter is ready to take the next step in his next fight for a title fight, and so this fight is important, and he's a favorite fighter, and you're bringing in somebody who is going to give him some competition, but you don't expect that fighter to win the fight. So they refer to them in the industry as A side and B side fighters, right? The A side being obviously the more popular fighter, the favorite fighter.
Yeah, everybody's putting everything into this fighter.
Right, exactly.
The other person is the opponent.
For me, there is no A or B.
Yeah, it has
there
to be
is
that
no
way.
red or blue.
Yeah.
I don't look at it from that perspective, and I literally tell the fighters that very thing during pre-fight instructions. I tell them, and I want you to know, first of all, red corner, blue corner, it makes no difference to me.
Yeah.
I have no personal interest in who wins this fight. I represent the neutral corner, and I'm only in the ring with you for two reasons: to make sure that you are safe and don't take unnecessary damage, and to enforce the rules. And I literally tell them just like that. I want them to know right from the start, right from the get-go, that I don't favor anybody here.
Yeah,
you're not going to get any favoritism. You're not going to get any extra breaks. You're not going to get an advantage with me.
sure.
But you have to be resolved in that you're going to do it that way, and you're going to treat both fighters equally. And unfortunately, going back to the issue of, our sport and the corruption and, that, people think sometimes you have officials who are not.
I just saw a fight recently.
Yeah.
I don't remember what fight it was, but yeah, it was definitely stopped prematurely.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have that case. So what is that like when you go into a locker room and you see the fighter? Like, how is the fighter's energy? Like, have you ever run into like real cool fighters that are like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, like, because that's the moment that you actually get to talk to them,
Right.
as people, not as fighters.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Once they get on that into the ring, it's a whole different way, and then they get off the ring, they're doing whatever they do, which is interviews or like whatever, right?
Right.
But that's the moment that you actually get to contact the fighter as a real person. Like, what has that been like?
Yeah, so that's that process actually for a referee is like you said, it's the opportunity to get to know the fighter and their team, although briefly, but get to see what the energy is, whether the fighter is, how the fighter is looking. And most importantly for me in my position, it's to establish the control and authority as the official in the ring. And I don't do that in an authoritative, like,
like condescending.
Condescending, put the hammer down. You're going to do things my way. And, I always remember this is their fight.
Yeah.
I'm there.
What your dad said.
I'm there to service them.
Yeah.
This is not about me. This is about them. But I am also in there to enforce the rules.
Yeah.
And so as the enforcer of the rules, you will follow the rules and you will respect my commands.
Yeah.
Or unfortunately your actions are going to get you penalized.
Yeah, it'll cost you a point.
Yeah, and I let these fighters know. I said, I tell them, again, in my pre-fight instructions, I inform them. I say, in regards to fouls and actions, you know what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. I expect you to avoid any actions or any fouls that may get you penalized. And I tell them, this is essentially your conduct will determine what I do.
Yeah.
So regulate your conduct, essentially. But I let them know in a very respectful, but a very authoritative way that I'm going to let you fight your fight. But if you try to take advantage, I'm going to enforce the rules. And I'm not going to play favorites, and I'm not going to not enforce the rules because you're the A side or you're whoever you think you are. That doesn't make any difference to me.
For sure. I mean, that's the way it has to be, right?
Right.
They have to know that you're going to look out for them, but then you're not going to let them cheat either.
Correct.
That's
right.
what has it been like to referee championship fights? Like you've refereed a couple of championship fights. Like what is that like? Like how does that change from the amateur level to the regular, I guess, regular fight? I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah.
And then a championship fight. How do they differ from each other?
Yeah, I think the only difference is that the stakes are higher financially. But in regards to the way that I officiate the fight, there's no difference to me. Whether or not it's a championship fight or whether it's a, non-title regular, bout, or it's an amateur fight. I try to approach all of them the same. Now, obviously, amateurs, your responsibility to make sure that they're safe and to take less damage is you're more careful with them. You're less tolerant of them taking too much punishment. That's why we have the standing 8 count to kind of give them a little bit of a breather, a little bit of a safety check count. We don't have that in professional boxing. There is no standing 8 count. So they have to be knocked down for them to receive a mandatory count. But as far as doing a championship fight is concerned,
I imagine the background changes, right? Like everything is like glitz and glamour in the championship fight. When you're doing like just a off the beat fight of a professional bout is like grungy, you know what I'm saying? Maybe not the cleanest place in the world. Like that would change, right?
I think the pre-fight and post-fight hype is really the only difference to me.
Okay.
From before you actually step into the ring and then afterwards, that's to me that's the biggest difference. You see all, like you just said, the glamour, the glitz, the lights, the hoopla, the people's entourages and all of the TV cameras, all of the stuff that comes with that kind of event, because essentially they're putting in an event on entertainment, right? But as far as what happens in the ring, once that bell rings, it's the same fight to me.
Focus.
I'm focused. I just red corner, blue corner, fighter. Two fighters, and and they're going at it, and that's how you have to look at it. You can't get caught up in the pre-fight hype. You can't get caught up in all the glitz and all the the stars in the crowd and all the people that are there to watch the fight. You can't get that's cool and all, but at the end of the day, you know what? It's still two fighters in a ring fighting, and whether or not it's the amateurs or whether or not it's the championship fight, essentially it's the same. It's the same thing. It's the same. That's really to me the biggest difference with championship fights is that pre-fight, post-fight stuff.
Okay. What are the biggest lessons that you've learned in the boxing scene?
Biggest lessons I've learned,
being an official, like, and it doesn't need to necessarily be about being an official, but just the biggest, where you're just like, man.
I think the thing I've learned as far as being a professional official is professionalism. Really, and when I say professionalism, I mean the way that you conduct yourself, in a professional environment. It's kind of really no different, or shouldn't be any different than you would in a professional setting in any industry, right? You can be casual amongst people that you can be casual with in a casual environment. Maybe? Your peers, yeah. You can be a little more casual. You can be a little more loose. But when you're in a professional setting, where there are people there that are executives and things of that nature, it's conducting yourself in a professional manner. So trying to approach my job in the most professional way I can, speaking to people in a professional way, never crossing the line, that professional line, being friendly with people, but not necessarily being friends with them. so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm a very friendly guy, and anybody that knows me can tell you that I'm very friendly, and I try to treat people everyone with respect. But also, I have a professional line that I will not cross.
Exactly.
Especially when I'm doing professional fights. I can be friendly with you, but listen, I'm here to do a job.
Yeah.
And so, you and I are not going to be taking pictures together. You and I are not going to be hanging
important.
out together.
Yeah, not taking pictures with any of the fighters and stuff like that.
No, I don't follow any fighters on social media. Yeah. I don't take any pictures with any fighters. I don't. If I see them, even I don't. No. I mean, even if you're not fighting, whatever. No, that's off limits, man.
Like the part of the entourage, part of the corner.
Yeah, no, I'm. Listen, one of my mentors, put it best when he told me that when you become a professional official, you stop being a fan. You cannot be a fan of boxing. He says not that you stop loving the sport, that you don't enjoy it anymore, but you cannot act as though a regular casual fan acts.
Yeah. You
cannot be taking pictures with people. You cannot be following them on social media or posting on their stuff. And no, that's a no.
Yeah.
Do not cross that. There is a professional line. Do not cross it.
How do you make sure that a boxer's not seriously hurt? Like what signs do you look at where you're just like, man, this dude ain't right?
So,
or this person, right? Because you also have done both
male
men and
female.
women. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the first and most important thing to look at is their eyes. Mm-hmm. Like Scarface said, the eyes never lie, Chico.
Yeah.
The eyes never lie. So I think that you can see it in their eyes. You can see there's a change in their, in the way that they look.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first telling sign for me. Also,
what do you look at in the eyes? Like, what do their eyes look like?
There's kind of a glazing in the eyes. There's also kind of a you can tell also whether or not they almost want to continue with the fight.
Yeah, because I was telling you, like,
yeah,
like when you stop the fight and the corner's like, why'd you stop the fight?
Right.
And the fighter looks you in your eyes
mm-hmm.
and is being like, thank you.
Yeah, they won't say it, but they give you that look like, yeah.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can tell. You can tell if somebody's been taking a lot of damage. Their eyes kind of tell a story to you of like, and they'll kind of even sometimes look at you out of their peripheral, and you can kind of see, okay, this person is either at or getting to the point where they've almost had enough. Mm-hmm. So that's for me. That's one of the most telling signs, one of the most important signs I look at. I also look at their body language. Mm-hmm. I see, what is their body telling me. Some guys, can take a lot of punishment and keep going. I mean, they just have a high threshold for pain, a high threshold for damage, and some fighters don't. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of tell that by their body language, by how they're reacting to the punches, how their gait, how they're walking back to their corner, how they're coming out of their corner mm-hmm. Before the start of the round. And just, signs of wear and damage during the bout, depending on, what's happened. It gets a little more difficult when they have, damage that's caused by a cut, mm-hmm. Or, swelling, because sometimes that in itself can look like, damage that's significant enough for you to make a decision. But it's not always, again, depending on the tolerance of the fighter and what they're able to do. Some people can fight with a nasty cut on over their eye or by their eyelid and just continue to go full tilt and not skip a beat. Mm-hmm. Where some fighters, they see their own blood and they're like, oh man, and you can see their body language and their whole demeanor changes.
They deflate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then yeah, man, talking about getting hurt, like, how do you deal with all the blood, bro? You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen Tony Weeks with, like, his whole shirt, like, red or purple because it's, like, he had that blue shirt on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that part where it's just, like...
You know what, man? That's just
Part of the game.
That comes with the game, man. I mean, if you don't like blood, you're in the wrong sport, and you definitely shouldn't be a referee
or a paramedic,
or a paramedic, or anything that involves blood. Stay away from it. If you're queasy at the sight of blood, then this ain't for you.
Yeah.
I've never been that way. It's funny. I when I was I think it was in my early 20s, 21, 22. I worked as a patient transporter at a hospital, and so you would transport people from one unit to the other. So you would transport people from the emergency room. People would come in with gunshots, blood there, or they were cut and they got stabbed, or in some cases you would take people who unfortunately passed away and died, and you would have to take them from their room or from their unit that they were at and take them down to the morgue, and put them in the freezer. So kind of morbid stuff, but it's stuff that kind of now when I look at blood or something that looks a big hematoma on somebody's eyeball, it doesn't really faze me. I look at it from a medical perspective and more from a perspective of, is this fighter okay enough to continue?
Yeah, like can they see out of that? Because if they can't see out of it, they potentially
get
hit super hard.
Make sure that they're able to continue in a safe manner, and that they're not gonna, it's not gonna cause more damage to them. But yeah, man, I sometimes I joke with some of the officials when I tell them, man, I always get the bloody fights, man. For some reason they always bleed on me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and you just gotta, some fighters, like I said, they take it fine, and they see their own blood, and it ain't no big thing to them. Some fighters, they see their own blood and they're like, oh man, and it kind of changes the way that they fight.
Yeah.
But as far as my responsibilities, it's like saliva, it's like sweat. You're gonna get all the bodily fluids on you as an official.
Yeah.
You got to be okay with it, man. I've had spit go in my eye. I've had freaking sweat, all over me, and blood and everything. And, listen, man, it comes with the territory.
What are some funny stories? So what are some funny stories that you can recall of reffing in the ring where you're just like, that's pretty funny? Yeah. Do you have any?
Yeah, man, I have a bunch of funny stories, man. I think ones that I'm specifically involved, I could tell you one.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be you.
I can tell you one glaring one with me.
Okay.
That it's funny, it stands out. The first fight, or the first round of the first fight on the first night of the 2022 Golden Gloves, Chicago Golden Gloves.
That was the year that they shut. No, that was the year that it came back.
That was a year it came back.
Okay.
Yeah, the very first year after
COVID
pandemic, and once they opened up. That was the first Golden Gloves after everything happened. And like I said, the very first round of the very first fight of the first night of the 2022 Golden Gloves, I was refereeing the first fight, and it was two middleweights, 160. And I went to go break them. And at that time I was, like I am, I'm always still developing as an official, but I was a lot less experienced than I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to go break them, and I didn't announce my mechanic and to break them with enough authority and with enough, with the, like
verbally
and physically the way that I should have.
Okay.
And so I broke them, and when I went to break, one of the guys was on the near or on the ropes, and the other guy was off, and so I moved the guy, because obviously I can't move the guy that's on the ropes any farther off the ropes. So I got to leave him where he's at. So I just make sure that he stays where he's at, and I move the other fighter off of him towards the center of the ring. So when I'm looking to turn, and move the guy towards the center of the ring, the guy that's on the ropes throws a punch and it hits me dead square in the face, man.
Oh, you became part of the fight real quick, bro.
Oh, man, he got me good, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, he got me real good. You know what?
What did he do?
He didn't put me down. I can tell you that.
You took it.
I took it square in the face. he dazed me. Don't get me wrong. I had to stop and take about 10, 15 seconds to, I said, I stopped and took a time out and I said, hold on, let me get my bearings, let me shake it off a little bit. Cause he caught me square in the face. Cause I turned, I'm looking at the other fighter and I turn, and all of a sudden, boom, square in the nose, like right here. And so, yeah, that was one. And so,
what did the fighter do after he hit you?
The fighter was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry," and but it was funny because everybody was just bust down. Everybody was just cracking on me after that. The officials, the coaches, they were like, But it was funny because that was an important lesson I learned. That taught me never to go into the middle of a fighters and break them without understanding that something like that can happen. And you have to, whenever you go in there and you are physically separating fighters, you have to be careful how you do it, and you have to do it with the understanding that punches can come, and be cognizant of that and be aware of that. So now, thankfully, I've corrected that, and I don't go in soft. I don't go in, when I break them, they know I'm ready to break them.
Yeah. For sure. Break, everybody break.
Yeah.
No, speaking of the nose, man. So the first Golden Gloves that I fought in, I was kind of like the Black Swan, or like the person that came out of nowhere. And so everybody knows each other in the circuit. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially masters, we all know each other.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay. And so I went in, and I had a deviated septum. So for like pretty much my whole adult life, I never knew that I only breathed like 20 or 30% from one nostril.
Really?
And the whole thing is that they were in the gym, they were like codifying it. Like they were codifying fighters' noses. So it was like they took like vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and made it hot in the microwave, and then they would put a Q-tip in, and then they would burn all the vessels, or what do they call them? The little veins inside your nose.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they were trying to do it to one of my nostrils, and the guy who was doing it could not get into my nostril. It's like, yo, really? Something's blocking your nostril, bro. Like, I cannot go in and like burn those little veins. What are they called? I'm losing
capillaries.
Yeah, the capillaries. I can't burn the capillaries.
Yeah.
So I went to the doctor, and they did a sleep study. So I had to sleep in a room, and they were like, bro, you have not been able to breathe out of that. How long have you had this? And I was just like, yeah, man, I've been snoring for blah, blah, this. Like for a long time. Yeah. They were like, yo, you had a deviated septum. So I go into the Golden Gloves, right? And when you get set for surgery, it's months in advance.
Yeah.
So they set my date for my surgery. Now I go into the Golden Gloves, and I had no idea I was going to get to the finals. I get to the finals, and the finals is the day right. So the finals is at 7:00, and my deviated septum surgery is at 3:00 in the morning the next morning.
Oh man!
So I'm like, yo, I told my surgeon, I was like, hey man, like I might be in the Golden Gloves or whatever. But then I called him that day, and I was like, yo, I made it to the finals, and is it cool if I go to surgery with a swollen nose? And he was just like, man, don't worry about it, bro. If they break your nose, we'll just fix it. So that first Golden Gloves, man, I went in with no regard for my nose.
Your nose was already broken, man.
I was just like, yo, break my nose again, because I'll be all right. You know what I'm saying? So I lost in the championship that year. But yeah, man, talking about that break of COVID in 2020, the day that we were going up into the Golden Gloves, the day that they canceled the Golden Gloves in 2020 was the day of my fight.
Wow.
That was crazy. Wow. And I was telling my trainers, like, bro, I don't know if I should go, man.
Yeah.
Because this COVID thing is getting out of hand.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and it spread by saliva and stuff.
Yeah.
And coughing. I was like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
And then they sent out the big announcement that it was canceled. But it was that day.
It was that very day that they shut everything down.
They shut everything down.
Wow.
I was ready to go.
Yeah.
With all my gear ready to go, and then I got like, I think they announced it on Facebook and they sent all the emails out. I don't know if they even called people, but I know that it was like a big deal.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that very, very clearly, man. It was disappointing, right? Because,
it was like maybe 3 days in, right? Or like 4 days in or something like that.
Yeah. I remember them calling it and saying that, we were canceling the tournament because of that. It's funny that we're talking about the pandemic because it's, that was one of the things, the pandemic was one of the things that for me, in my pro career, at least, was something that left me kind of in limbo. And the reason I say that is because, I first started my pro career as a judge. I got my first pro license as a judge. And that was in 2019, at the end, October of 2019. And I had did a pro fight that at the end of that year, 2019, and then I had attended the World Boxing Organization convention in 2019, and it was in Japan. It was in Tokyo, and it was great, man. And I was just so excited to have start to embark on my professional career and start and then, 6 months later after, my pro career starts, boom, the pandemic happens. So, it was one of those moments where you think to yourself, man, I just got started in this thing. I started in the amateurs, about 4 years prior to that. And I had, built up, all of this momentum going into, my pro career. I had volunteered at all these amateur fights. I had built up my record with USA Boxing, adding fights to my record for both judging and refereeing. And man, I was excited about the future. And then all of a sudden that happens.
Yeah.
And, and listen, everybody went through periods, that period of indecisiveness, of wondering what was going to happen with the future, right? So I'm not the only one that suffered and dealt with that, but when you're first starting your journey into something that you feel is has given you purpose and meaning in your life, for it to just all of a sudden
be taken away
from you, man, that was devastating, man. It was like, and then, nobody knew how long it was going to last. Nobody knew that, people were saying, oh, it's only going to be 3 weeks, or it's only going to be 3 months. It went from 3 weeks to 3 months to, at the end of the, 2020, it'll be over. And I think a year and a half later, there we were,
I was reading like all the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
Everything that they were writing about the Spanish flu, or like that they wrote back then. And it was two years. Yeah. So I was shooting for 2 years.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, we didn't, you could look back in history and I think, somebody like yourself that took the time to explore that and find out. But most of us were going by what we were told in the
Dr.
media
Fauci.
Or Dr. Fauci. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or whoever else, what we saw on social media, whatever, that was telling us, oh, it's only going to be a short period, and then it'll all go away, or what they were, what
like
President Trump was telling us,
It's crazy.
And so we thought it was going to be a short period, and we get back, eventually, everything, everybody get vaccinated, and we get back to it, and boom, we wouldn't skip a beat.
Yeah, who would have thought, like in that moment, like in that frame of mind, that we would finally be in this place where we don't have to have masks? It's crazy,
right? Absolutely.
It's crazy that we went through that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like a once in a lifetime type situation. Hopefully,
man, I hope so. I hope it's only that period in our lives, and we're past that, and we don't ever have to go through that again. Because like I said, I'm not the only one. It took an emotional and mental and physical toll on a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people at that point in their lives, were concerned and about the future and what the future held for them. And but yeah, man, it's it's one of those things where when you finally found the thing that is you feel is your calling, is something that gives you meaning and purpose in your life, and all of a sudden for it to be taken away from you so abruptly, and it makes you wonder, like, what's next, and will I? And I'll be honest with you, I didn't, there was a point after a certain time where things didn't seem like they were going to end, where I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to go back. I probably, maybe once, even when things open up, am I really going to want to, or am I going to find something different to do? Yeah. But you know what? When you find your purpose and your calling and the thing that you love, it calls you back. It doesn't let you go, and you don't let it go. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. It was tough. It was tough. It was a crazy time. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad that my kids were not old enough to like really be impacted by it. But I know that your son probably was impacted pretty hard by it because he was in his formative years at that time. Yeah, I mean, being home, having to be home and do school through Zoom, and not having contact with his peers, other kids at school, and not having the life just became different, man. And it's I mean, it's different. It's one thing for you as an adult to experience that. It's another thing for you to have a child, and how do you get them through that? How do you let them know that what life was like before it's not like that anymore? Mm-hmm. And that I needed to, do the best for myself. Mm-hmm. And when I pivoted and looked at life from that perspective, I started seeing a change in how people viewed me. Mm-hmm. And I started seeing the respect that I was seeking by trying to please people. Now I was getting by not trying to please them at all. Being comfortable in your own skin. Right. I think that's one of the best things that I've ever learned, is being comfortable in my own skin. Yeah. Because it's so liberating. To love yourself, you know what I'm saying? Right. And then once you're able to love yourself, then you're able to love other people. You know what love is. True. Because you know it for yourself. And so, that's one of the biggest gifts that I've gotten, you know what I'm saying, in my life is first, not caring what other people think. So what other people think about you is none of your business. Mm-hmm. But then the next one is, 100% being comfortable in your own skin. Yeah, I agree. You know what I'm saying? Yep. All right. And then if you could give somebody advice that, would want to get into boxing in any way, like what kind of advice would you give to that person to lead them in a better direction, or just like in a more efficient way? Yeah, I think that I would advise them to do, what I did, which is start off in the amateurs. Mm-hmm. That's the starting point. That's the grassroots. That's where it all begins. If you look at all of the great professional world champions and fighters, today, they all started in the amateurs. they all started from the grassroots up. And that's where, as anyone who's interested in being an official, that's where you need to begin, is the amateurs. It's going to give you the foundation and the basis for being able to understand the sport on a deeper level, on understand the sport from a technical level, and if you really love the sport, you'll want to pursue it further. So yeah, generally I let them know, start off in the amateurs. We have a great amateur program here in Illinois. Yeah. The Illinois and Chicago boxing community is near and dear to my heart. Again, this is where I started. This is, the community that, made me who I am, and continues to develop me and make me who I am. Yeah. And, we have, one of the best amateur scenes and amateur boxing communities in the entire country. I'm not sure if people are aware, but listeners should know that amateur boxing is thriving and always has in Chicago and in the state of Illinois. We are one of the busiest states in the country as far as putting on sanctioned boxing shows for amateurs. So anyone that has an interest in getting involved in officiating, they're going to get all the practice and all the opportunities they need here in Illinois to do that. And if you're not from Illinois, wherever you're at, whatever state you're in, register with USA Boxing. They can go on the USA Boxing website. Just Google USA Boxing. It has a list of the states where they have local boxing committees, and they have a list of the officials that are in charge, the executive officials, whether it's the president or the chief of officials. You can contact them, introduce yourself, say that you're interested in amateur boxing, and they can give you steps on how to get involved and how to register so you can become an official.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
And then, respecting your time, would you like to leave anything for anybody to reach out to you, or just send them to the USA Boxing website?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, for anyone who's interested in becoming a boxing official with the amateurs, they can go to the USA Boxing website or the Illinois local boxing committee, USA Boxing Illinois, and get more information there. They can also get a list of the shows, or contact either the LBC president, who is Sean Talon, or our chief of officials, Caroline Burgess, to get involved that way. They can, if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm on both Facebook and Instagram. Facebook at Ben Rodriguez, and Instagram I'm BenRod727.
Okay, cool, man. So yeah, reach out to the LBC, to the boxing community, and you're in the space that you find yourself in. Definitely follow Ben on his social media handles. And man, so we are produced by Where You At Productions. If you want to leave your legacy, you want to leave a story behind for future generations, or you want to record your story so that it's not lost, reach out to whereyouatproductions.com. We're 500 and growing. You could go to 500andgrowing.com, which is where you'd find past guests. So we've talked about Ben. Ben has talked about Tyson DJ New Life Sanchez, which is our first guest on the first season, first episode. So definitely look at archives and stories that we've featured in the past. They're incredibly inspiring, and nonetheless, thank you, Ben, for making it. We really appreciate you telling your story. I'm positive that it's going to change or inspire people, right? What it's like to be in the middle of the ring in a high pressure situation and have to focus. We really appreciate you, and thank you for being here.
I really appreciate it, Jesus. Thank you for having me on the 500 and Growing podcast, and God bless everybody.
All right, peace.
500 and growing.
Podcast.
Dedicated to the underdog, cause I see you. Working on your craft, getting strong, cause I see you. Ready to set it off and on, cause I see you. Correcting all that is wrong, cause I see you. Dedicated to your craft, read and study the math. Making goals and taking a stand. Original, so you trailblaze a path. In tune with your inner master plan.
Visit 500andgrowing.com for more creative content.
Thank you very much for listening to the 500 and Growing podcast. Remember that we have incredible guests that have already featured in episodes in the past. So please go back into the archives and listen to their inspirational stories. And then remember that we have incredible guests lined up for the future. So please follow on Instagram at 500 and Growing Podcast. Remember to follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of the major podcast platforms. You can also check out 500andgrowing.com for more creative content.
500 and growing.